Welcome to today's lesson. What I wanted to talk with you guys about today is a product called Olive. It is a free, which is key, it's a free video editor. So obviously editing stories from home is difficult because most of you guys don't have Adobe Premiere sitting at home. If you're lucky enough to have a Mac, iMovie is a pretty good option. But honestly, one of the best free video editors I have found is this program named Olive. Now, I have downloaded it onto my computer, and I'm going to show you kind of what this product looks like. And it is, in a lot of ways, very similar to Adobe Premiere, which you all know by this point. And that's kind of why I like it. Most of your nonlinear editors will kind of work this way, and there's not a whole lot to figure out. But what I wanted to give you guys today was a little bit of a tutorial about what it's like to use the Olive video editor. So let's begin with the first part. So once you open up Olive, it'll look something like this. Now, if you go up here to File, and then you go to Import, that is where you can import any video you have shot. So like those interviews we talked about last class period, where you would interview someone using Skype or Google Hangouts, you could bring that video in here. If you were, say, shooting video that you would want to bring in here. And remember, the assignment from last period, I had you kind of shoot some frames of video. The reason I had you do that is for right now. So I have already imported my video, and you see where it winds up right here. It says project, and these are our video frames. Now, I've brought in a bunch of stuff that I just had sitting on my computer. This is stuff from back in the day whenever I was working professionally. So these are just some Creighton games and some Nebraska games that I've shot in the past. But today, I just want to walk you through how to use this editor just a little bit. You guys all know how to edit, right? We've been editing all year long. I just want to show you kind of how this editor works, and so you have the kind of basic functionality you'll need to be able to put together stories. So the first thing I want to talk about is if you double click something, hopefully you notice as I was double clicking those things, over here where I'm showing my mouse right here, that says Media Viewer. So this is the exact same way that you would see it in Premiere. Obviously the window is set up differently, right? You would have kind of this project window would be down here. The sequence would be kind of maybe a little shorter. All this is it's all the same things that would normally be set up in Premiere. They're just set up a little bit differently here in Olive. And if this part really annoys you, like you really want the setup different, you can come up here and change the way your window looks and make things look a little bit different. But I just want to show you what it looks like with the default in. So I've double clicked Abdullah Run. Now, just like with Premiere, this is what this video is. So you can see I'm kind of scrolling through the timeline. It's just a small clip of Amir Abdullah making kind of a sharp cut. So I'm going to put if I hit I, just like on Adobe Premiere, you'll see kind of how that blue bar moves back. That's me setting that endpoint just like you would on Premiere. And when I drag this back to the end, where I want the video to end, I can hit O and set that as my out point. Now notice I didn't go all the way to the edge. If I had, then this part would be blue. It's only highlighting in blue right here in the middle the things that I'm actually using. It's just, again, this is exactly like Premiere. What I do now is exactly like Premiere. I'm going to click and drag, and you notice I have a timeline sequence down here, just like you have in Premiere. And over here to the right, you see this window right here. I keep pointing at stuff, even though you guys can't see it, so I'm trying to move my mouse over here. If you can see where my mouse is, this is the sequence. So remember, this screen here is just what's appearing from this. The sequence is the actual video. This is just like Premiere. So if I hit spacebar, just like Premiere, it's going to play, and you're going to see that's the video that we're editing. Just like Premiere over here, we've got kind of the audio that's going to tell us if it's too loud or too low. I'm going to add a couple more shots of video next to this just so you can see that it works exactly like Premiere. Okay, so let's pull down something that maybe doesn't need like a beginning and end. Let's just pull down RG foreground here and let's see what this is. So this is just him celebrating after a sack. This is right. So, but say I only wanted part of this. Maybe I didn't want the very end part here and I wanted to cut it down. So you don't always have to just use the window up here to edit from beginning to end. I can come down here and I can just drag this back. Again, this is just like Premiere, and now I've cut this a little bit shorter than what it was. Again, I can click and drag just like in Premiere and butt these two clips back to back. And then if I come over here and press spacebar, it's going to play these two clips back to back. There's Abdullah making his little cut, and then this is Randy Gregory kind of showing off after a sack. Notice, hopefully, if you will, that this is exactly like Premiere. At this point, we have done nothing that is any different than Premiere. Things are in a little bit different spot, but this is just like the Premiere that you've edited with in the past. The other thing is you could put in, this is an interview I did. Remember I told you to do interviews? This is an interview I did with Mike Sauter.
Hi class, I am here with the good.
You can kind of hear there's me talking up there. This is something we had done earlier on. So I'm just going to snag a little clip out of here. Notice we can go a long ways. This is the full interview. So we can definitely, I could scroll all along here and we could have like this huge long thing that we drag down there, which we don't want to do. So I'm just going to choose a small little clip here of me talking. What you would want to do, obviously, is find the exact spot of him saying something. And in fact, let's do that so you can kind of have a better idea. So let's kind of move along this to the point where he says, maybe he starts talking and says something interesting. Obviously, there's a large part of this that is me just kind of doing an intro, interviewing him. I shared this interview with many of you already. So this is a friend of mine who is a reporter for the Omaha World Herald. And so let's just find a good soundbite where he's talking about his job and what he's doing right now. So I'm still scrolling. You can see this is an entire interview. So this is the one thing. This doesn't quite, like I could just pull this back and then we could see more. And then maybe it's a little easier and I'm not having to scroll back and forth. That's kind of up to however you would want to do it. That's your own thing. Again, this is just like Premiere. This little drag and drop where I can shrink or make everything available, or we can zoom in and have less available. You just click, hold, and then drag, right? You wait for the arrow to have the two lays, then you click and hold, and then you can drag it in or out, and that will allow this to shrink or expand how you would like it.
Sure.
It's pretty clear that they've tried to make this as similar to traditional Premiere as they could, which is very good on their part.
Sure.
So let's find, this is a part where he starts talking. So let's listen to him say something.
I started via just a Twitter account in 2009, 12, something like that, years ago. I was sitting in a gym and there was people around me from around the country. And
okay, we'll end there. Obviously, if we were doing an actual story, we'd want to look for the really good sound bite. And we will have some lessons on how we pick really good quotes and things like that in future digital media lessons. But for now, we're just going to use that. And again, I'm just going to pull this down and drag it onto this timeline. Now, one thing you'll notice is this is going off the screen. We can't see the edge of it. Again, this is another thing that is just like Adobe Premiere. If you come down here, you can click and drag, and now we are expanding this timeline so that we can see everything on our timeline. Now, these are clips that I had pre-edited, so that's why there's not any nat sound that you're hearing. But obviously this is an interview.
I started via just a Twitter account.
And so you see over here on the side, the volume levels were there so we could see. And then even here, you can kind of see where the waves are. Now, the other thing I want you to notice is here's Randy Gregory. And then when we go here, his video is much smaller. The reason for that is simple. This is a different size video than this video. And sometimes you're going to run into that. And if you run into that, then you're going to need to try and resize this video. So I've double clicked on it, and you notice that it's brought this window here up. Now I can go to this edge and start dragging this out, and I can kind of decide how close I want this to be. Do I mind having it a little smaller like that? Would I want to zoom in and then completely eliminate myself from the screen? These are some choices that you would kind of have to make on your own and decide whether or not you wanted to eliminate maybe just part of the screen. I could do this where I just drag it over. I don't really need that other side there. And maybe I start moving this out a little bit more. Remember, these are all decisions that you can make on the fly or however you would like to edit them. I think I'm going to just stop right there. If I was really editing this for a story, I'd probably zoom out where we zoom in so where we wouldn't have this bottom part from the computer there, and I would take out this part up here so we just had the video of us two in there. But that is something you can do, and all I did was double click on this and it brought up that little window where I could click and drag and then make that larger. So hopefully you are seeing that this is 100% similar to Adobe Premiere so far. As we continue, if you look over here, you'll see a lot of tools. There's a recording audio tool. If you have a microphone, you can record audio directly into this clip, and then you can put your audio on there. So that's a way to record voice tracks if you're putting together a package. This is just tools to zoom in and out. I showed you how you could do it down here. If you just wanted to zoom in and out here, you can do it as well. There's transition functions. There's a slide tool. There's the slip tool. All of these tools are available on regular old Premiere, right? So if I come here, I've got this tool back. Remember the razor tool? This is where you hit C. This is how you cut things. So if I just wanted to cut this, I could click there, and suddenly we now have two separate parts of video if I want to throw something else in there. The next thing I want to show you is the cross dissolve tool. Now this works a little bit different. So you know when it comes to Premiere, you would have this little transition tool is in a different spot and you would drag it here. The way Olive works is these little tools allow you to change your actual cursor. So if I want to do just a traditional cross dissolve, which is about all we would use for traditional editing at this point, I can click here between these two things and then drag, and then you see it's created a little dissolve between those two things. So really simple functionality. Rather than clicking and dragging, it turns itself into a dissolve tool. I click and then drag on this part, as you just saw. The next thing we can do here is let's give Mike a little bit of a super. If I come down here and go to the title tool, and if I click up here, we can have like a second video layer, which is where we want to put a title. And I can drag this out. Let's give it a little time here, maybe a couple seconds. And now it says sample text right up here. Now say we don't like where that text is, right? Well, we can come over here where it says effects title now. Click that. Change this so we have a little bit more of a view. And we can move this, right? So we can come over here to our position, just like you would on Premiere. You click and drag this. So that's controlling the horizontal axis. This is controlling the up and down, the vertical axis. And we'll move that sample text over there. It says sample right here. We can change that to say Mike Sauter. Now we need to get rid of where it says text as well. So it says Mike Sauter. And maybe now we want to hit enter. And we'll say Omaha World. No, it's going to be a little long. Let's go OWH Reporter. I mean, Omaha World Herald Reporter. So now we have our little kind of text there. Now, there's blend modes here. There's a lot of different things you could use. You could do the opacity. This little screen over here, let me move this back so you can kind of see this. This is where you might kind of drag things up and down and make them kind of, fade on and out, transition on and out. I'm sure there's a lot of fancy things you would be able to do in here. Here's kind of the shadow you could add. You can make it 3D. But for this, let's just have this simple little title. And you see it says Mike Sauter, so we have that in there. Now, remember, we have the little dissolve effect, so we could go back to our transition cross dissolve. If we wanted it to fade on and dissolve off, we could put a transition there, come back here, and then transition here, and just have this really small dissolve on and off. So if we play this...
I started... via just a...
You see how it kind of dissolves on and off. So hopefully this brief little tutorial that's went on longer than I expected to will help you edit with this. Keep using it. Think about more interesting things you can create with this. It's a very powerful tool. It's free as well, which is why I highly recommend you use it. If you need to export, it's just like Premiere. You come up here to export. Keep it probably in the MP4 format. That's going to be the one that is most often used. So I always try to have us go with MP4. Entire sequence, right? We want it whatever. We want it to where it can be everywhere. Don't worry about this codec. Right here, this is widescreen, which is what we definitely want to make sure we're using. A lot of this stuff is standard, and you'll just kind of keep this standard. At the end, you'll come down here and you'll hit export, and it will export that video to wherever you would like to export on your computer. Then you can send it to me, and I can upload it to YouTube, and we can begin sharing videos and all the things that we would have done if we were still in school. So I hope this helped you figure it out. If you would like some more in-depth tutorials, I can do some of those for you as well.